Hey everyone, today we're going to be starting a new unit over a new shape, which is circles. So we are going to start with something that hopefully we've seen before, which is area of a circle. So the area of a circle, the formula is right here, is just pi times r squared, where r, so this r here, represents the radius of the circle. So from the center to the outer edge. So for our first two examples, it says find the area of each circle and round to the nearest tenth. So here's our first circle. So 7 is our radius. So if I'm using the formula pi times r squared, then all I would need to do is pi times 7 squared. Now, on your Inspire calculators or on Desmos or pretty much any calculator you find, there is an actual button that says pi. So you're going to use that button and then times 7 to the second power. So when I type this in, I get 153.938, but it says to round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to write down area equals 153.9. And in this problem, they were measuring in meters. So this would be square meters. Okay, the one right next to it. We also want to find the area here. Only that 30 belongs to the entire diameter, and I only want the radius. So for here, our radius is going to be 15 because the two pieces would be 15 and 15, which makes 30. So our area formula, pi times r squared, we're going to plug in pi times 15 squared. Okay, so type it out into the calculator and round to the nearest tenth. I get 706.9, and this is measuring in feet, so it'll be square feet. Okay, the problem right below this, the instructions say, find the radius or diameter of a circle with the given area. So here it says, so number 3, find the radius of a circle that has an area of 615.75. So remember that the formula for area is A equals pi times r squared. We're going to fill in what we know. So we know that the area is 615.75. Pi is always going to be pi, and then times r squared. So our job now is to get this r by itself. So I'm going to start off by dividing by pi. That way it can cancel from the right, but we also need to do that to the left. So now I'm left with 615.75 divided by pi is equal to r squared. So we're almost there. This is r squared, and I only want it to be regular r. So to get rid of that square, we are going to square root, and we need to do that to both sides. So now I'm going to switch the order. I'm going to put r first. R is equal to the square root of 615.75 divided by pi. So now just type that into the calculator. You don't need to put the r equals. Just start with the square root symbol, this here. Type that into the calculator. And we're going to round also to the nearest tenth. Okay, so on this one, I actually get 13.99. So if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, I would look at the number next to it. So this time around, I could round to the nearest whole number, 14. And in this problem, they were using kilometers as our measuring. So this was just like an example of working backwards. Okay, right next to it, it says find the diameter of a circle with an area of 415.48. So this time they want diameter. So remember that diameter is 2 times the radius. So if I have a formula that is area equals pi r squared, we can solve for r and then multiply that by 2. So we know that the area is 415.48. Okay, so now, just like we did before, we want r to be by itself. So we're going to divide by pi. And that'll cancel from the right. So 415.48 over pi is equal to r squared. So to get r alone, we're going to square root. And I get that r is equal to the square root of 415.48 over pi. Okay, but like I said before, they're asking for a diameter. And diameter is equal to 2 times r. So if I have r, if I multiply this by 2, it'll become diameter. But what you do to one side, you also have to do to the other. So diameter would equal 2 times the square root of 415.48 over pi. Okay, so that whole thing, just type that into the calculator. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. So this time, I get 23.001. So it's just going to be regular 23. And in this problem, they were measuring in inches. Okay, so that's it for this side of the notes. Just finding area of circles and being able to use that same area formula to figure out what radius is. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to talk about today is called sector area. So this I do not think you guys have seen before, but it's still area. It's just that instead of the area of the entire circle, I only want the area of the shaded in part. So it's still going to be pi r squared, only that x will be a degree measurement. So it'll say 90 degrees, 80 degrees, whatever. You're going to put that right here. So this will be an angle. You're going to plug that in here over 360, but everything else stays the same. So radius is still this r that gets plugged in. Okay, so we have 3 problems to go over for this one. Find the area of the shaded sector and round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so 16 is our radius. X, the angle that's in here, is 51. So now I just have to follow that formula that we wrote above. Area equals x over 360, so it's going to be 51 over 360 times pi times r squared, so times 16 squared. Type that into the calculator all at once. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. So when I type it in, I get 113.9. And they're measuring in feet, so this will be square feet. So that's the area of only the colored in part. Only this colored in part. So it's kind of like a slice of pizza, just the area of that slice. Okay, next problem. Okay, so it's kind of same thing. Our radius is 22, and the angle that they gave us is 139. So following the formula, we have 139 over 360 times pi r squared. So 22 squared. Type this into the calculator all at once. Round to the nearest tenth. So I get 587.1. And this time they're measuring in centimeters, so square centimeters. Okay, and then last example. Our radius is 13. But be careful with x. X should be the angle of the shaded in part. So this side is x. They gave us 126. So the whole circle equals 360. So to find out x, we're going to do 360 minus 126. And that gives us 234. So following the formula, it's that angle of the shaded area, so 234 over 360 times pi r squared. So pi 13 squared. Type that all into the calculator, round to the nearest tenth, and I get 345.1. They're measuring in yards. Okay, so the only difference between sector area and just regular area is adding this fraction to the front, that x over 360. And that x has to be the angle of the shaded in area. Okay, that's it for notes today, guys. And there is a short assignment for you guys to do. The paper should be handed to you, and it's also on Schoology.